Interview tips for non-English speakers. Tip number 1. Prepare and practice your introduction. When you go for your job interview, the interviewer will ask this most common question: tell me about yourself. So this gives you an opportunity to not only present yourself, but it gives the interviewer a chance to evaluate your English speaking skills. One thing that you should do is try to speak straight to the point and keep your answers short and simple. So you could say things like, I am a hard worker, I am a team player, I am focused, I am dedicated, I love a challenge, I am prepared to do what is necessary to make sure I get the job done or I get the task completed. Tip number 2. Prepare and practice your responses for common questions. Now, during the interview, you will have certain questions like, why should we hire you? What makes you different from the other candidates? What can you bring to this job? Or what can you bring to this company? Now, every interviewer will be different. They will have their own set of questions. Some you may recognize, or some will be spoken very differently. So the key thing that you should do is go online and check up all the common questions that you would expect to hear during an interview, and also review any typical answers that you can find. But one tip you should remember is try to be original with your answers, because this is about you. So don't copy what someone else has written. One other thing you should try to do is, if you have a friend or a family member who has some experience with English, try to practice with them. At least that way they can help you with your answers and correct you if there's anything that you might have made a mistake. Tip number 3. Always answer your questions positively. Now, during the interview, one of the things that they will want to see is your characteristics, maybe a bit of your personality. One thing they don't want to see is you presenting a negative attitude. So they don't want to see you go, hello, my name is Richard, I would like a job, please. No, because that sets off a very negative attitude. One thing you should be doing is keeping a smile, and when someone does ask you a question, like for example, why do you want to work for this company? You can respond like this. Well, I would like to work for this company because it's in the field that I am interested in. I have lots of experience in this area, and I think that I can bring more to the company to make you more successful, and also to develop any new skills that I can require while working for your company. So there you go. So it's short and simple, always keep a smile. Tip number 4, this one is very important. During the interview, don't mention any negative things about your previous company. Of course, when you left your company, you might have left on good terms or you might have left on bad terms. But if you had left on bad terms, don't focus on the negative areas and try not to sound negative as well. Like with my previous tip, try to sound positive as well. So for example, if you had a conflict with one of your colleagues, you could say something like this. Well, my colleagues and I, we always had different ways of thinking, or we had different ways of doing things. But sometimes we would agree, or sometimes we would disagree. Mainly disagree a lot. But one thing we could always do is we can always just sit down, discuss what needs to be done, and we try to compromise. And eventually, we always got the job completed on time. So that way, at least it shows that if you have a problem, you always find a way to correct your problems as well. Instead of saying, I didn't like this guy, he was rude, he was mean, I didn't like her, she was disrespectful. Because at least that way, when it shows the positive side, it shows that you can work around people and you can adapt to any type of situation or to the attitude of other people. Tip number 5, anticipate questions about your education and your qualifications. Now, of course, depending on what country you come from, let's say it could be Brazil, Japan, China, Russia, or different parts of Europe. One of the things that an interviewer from the UK, America, Australia, or Canada, they might not know anything about the schools that you have in your countries. So one thing that would be really important is to provide some information and some background about the school or the university that you applied. Also, one other thing that would be very helpful is to bring any diplomas or your qualification certificates as well. Of course, you would have already mentioned this in your CV and your resume, but it's always good to have a copy of those, so at least they can see that, okay, this person's telling the truth, this is where they went. And this should actually help with the interviewing process as well. Tip number 6, now this one is very important, is don't give long answers. Now, with my experience with some of my students, trying to ask a simple question like, what did you do during the weekend? Sometimes a student would give me an answer that takes like about 3 to 4 minutes when they don't need to. They can just keep it short and simple. For example, what did you do on the weekend? You can say, I went to a restaurant with my wife and family, or I went to my grandmother's place. Short and simple. I don't need too much information unless if I ask for more information. Like, oh, you went to a restaurant. Which restaurant did you go to? How was the food? What's the environment like? Then you can add extra information as well. But try and keep it short and simple. But also, one other tip is when it comes to short and simple questions and answers, don't just say things like yes or no, because they want you to explain yourself a little bit more. Now, with tip number 7, one important thing that you can do is to help to sell yourself is that you are from another country, so you are an international person, which can also benefit your country. So, for example, if you are from a country, a country like Brazil, you already have already know the language, you have an understanding of the culture, and plus also you have some relationship with the countries around you, such as Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Uruguay, Paraguay, etc. So you already know something about their culture and you know something about their language. Maybe there are some parts of the language that you can actually understand. And this can actually help your company as well, providing if they are trying to open negotiations or start a contract agreement with a company from another country. So they can probably ask you to join in on the interview, or sorry, not the interview, during the negotiations, or maybe they might ask you for your feedback. But normally they would ask you to join in to help you with what to do and what not to do with someone from another country. Tip number 8, this one's very important, is to review any special vocabulary that you will need for the particular job that you will be going for. So if you're going to work for a company that focuses on IT, then you need to learn every single word that will involve IT. So such as like monitors, keyboards, database, hardwire, internet, online, offline, words like that. But of course, obviously, a much wider vocabulary, which I don't have. It's the same if you were going to train to be a doctor. You need to know all the medical terms, like all the names of all the different viruses and different diseases around the world, and also the names of all the organs and the bones and medical procedures. Something which I know I can't do, that's a definite. Now for tip 9, the most important thing is you need to remember is when it comes to finishing the interview and the follow-up. So one thing you should do is stay positive, keep a smile, shake hands. You can probably ask them how long will it take for them to get for them to respond to you. If push comes to shove, you can always ask for a business card, or maybe they may offer you a business card in a way for them to contact you. One most important thing that you can do is that when you do have their contact details, send an email saying thank you very much for their time, and try to mention why you should get the job and list down your strengths as well. And finally, for tip number 10, patience. It's not the end of the world if you don't get the job. If you don't get the job, there are other jobs out there. So one thing that you should do is try to review what you did during the interview, what you said or what you didn't say, what you did and what you didn't do, like maybe with your body language, your mannerisms, how you spoke, your tone of voice, and try to make notes of what you did, and then practice so you don't make those mistakes again. So when it comes to your next interview, you will be more prepared and you will feel more calm and more natural, and hopefully it will go much better.